We've spoke about this topic in numerous ways, so we're going to be talking about weight training today. More specifically, we're going to go into our sort of 3 steps to starting weight training, establishing the why, load management, removing the fear of movements, and then we're obviously going to go into some more bonus stuff, which is just like loads of extra stuff. What we're probably going to start with, though, first is why you should start weight training, because obviously it's all good and well telling you why, but how to do it, but it's why should you even bother? We've got loads of different benefits. What I want to quickly do is mention a couple of episodes we've done in the past. Now, when we talk about why you should get into weight/resistance training, this is going to apply to everybody, regardless if you're old, young, male, female. But regarding young and old specifically, I'd really recommend going back and listening to a couple of our old episodes. So one of them was called Myths, Age, Kids and Exercise, and another one was called Age, I'm Getting Old. They're both part of the Myths series. So if you go to chatshitgetfit.com and you go to our series tab, you'll be able to find all the series, and the Myths is one of them. And they're really good, those two, because they talk about weight training quite a lot because they're quite prevalent in those categories. So, for example, with kids, we discuss quite a lot why children shouldn't fear lifting. Basically, if it's done under the proper guidance, it's going to be really, really beneficial to them. And then when we look to old people, I say old people, it sounds like I'm being offensive there. Old people, fuck that. No, but older people, we talk about it, how it's probably even more important for that quality of life in the future. We look specifically at something called sarcopenia, which we listed episode you'll hear all about. It's basically a condition which can be quite detrimental to quality of life as you get older, but things like resistance training can help with that, which we go into more detail and we'll probably go over again in this episode as well. So, right, let's get into why you should do it. Before we get into kind of a bit of back and forth between myself and Tom, we are an evidence-based podcast, so I'm going to start with a nice bit of I'll say data, it's not really data, it's more of an extract from a paper. So this is a 2012 paper titled Resistance Training is Medicine. So benefits of resistance training include improved physical performance, movement control, walking speed, functional independence, cognitive abilities and self-esteem. All sounds very good so far. Resistance training may assist in the prevention and management of type 2 diabetes by decreasing visceral fat, reducing HbA1c, increasing the density of glucose transporter type 4 and improving insulin sensitivity. Resistance training may enhance cardiovascular health by reducing resting blood pressure, decreasing low density lipoprotein cholesterol and triglycerides.
You nearly had it, Bill. You nearly had it.
We'll move on. And increasing high density lipoprotein cholesterol. Resistance training may also promote bone development, with studies showing a 1% to 3% increase in bone mineral density. Resistance training may be effective for reducing lower back pain and in easing discomfort associated with arthritis and fibromyalgia. Was that right? That's
fibromyalgia.
Myalgia. Oh, okay.
You're making me do it now. Fibromyalgia.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I can't. Why would you fucking ask me? You know my track record for pronouncing English.
It has been shown to reverse specific aging factors in skeletal muscle. So that all makes it sound really, really good. And the stuff we tucked on there, I mean, there's a few things there that I just like the first bit. It may include, obviously it's going to improve physical performance depending on obviously how you're doing it, because if you are resistance training, that resistance is creating a stimulus, it's creating a stress, which will then improve performance in that lift, which obviously we'll go into more of it. Movement control, walking speed and functional independence, I think are really important, especially for the older generation, as we speak about on the old episode in the Myth series. And then there's obviously a load of other benefits like the type 2 diabetes, the cardiovascular health, and that's just because of general exercise. By doing exercise, you are going to improve. You're going to decrease the risk chance of these conditions. I think that really sums up why, from a health standpoint. Is there anything you want to add really on a health standpoint? It did mention obviously there, but we didn't go into much of the psychological point, but it did mention self-esteem there, which is obviously a factor as well.
I mean, it gives you bragging rights.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know, picking up heavy things gives you bragging rights.
Yeah.
Also, you can start wearing really sick gym gear as well. You know, Gymshark, all that jazz. But no,
Gymshark?
seriously.
Well, no.
Yeah.
When the new Primal range comes out, train Primal gear, mate. Well, that'll be the.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. It was just a slip of the tongue, weren't
Slip
it?
of the tongue. It's a completely different word.
Both are apex predators, sharks,
Yeah,
and
but
trained primal in general.
we're land. Train Primal's got land apex predators. Gym sharks are fucking. No one cares about the fuck. It's like Aquaman. Aquaman's always pushed to the side.
That's
They're always
true.
like, oh, here we go. What's he gonna do? Fucking bring us the fit? Like, he's useless on land.
At the end of the day, if a shark's prey is on land, the shark is fucked. They can't do anything. But I'm pretty sure bears can still swim.
Yeah, no, you're right. They at the end,
Yeah,
the shallow.
I think they can. Tigers swim? I think they probably can, but they're big cats, and cats are scared of water, aren't they?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, although that would be.
But
Go on.
going back to Aquaman, I know we've had this discussion with someone we know before, but he really is just like the worst superhero. It's like, even if, like, look at Aquaman, yeah, his stomping ground literally is the ocean. Now, even if you were stuck on an oil rig, and you needed saving on this oil rig, you're still going to ask for anyone but Aquaman.
Yeah, Superman probably.
Even on his own stomping ground, Aquaman's going to be like the last resort. If you're like there's like an out to sea tornado, or there's like a giant freak wave, and it's fucked up your oil rig, and you're on a piece of debris, and you're like, someone save me. And then like Aquaman comes by, and he's like, don't worry, I'm here. And then you're like, do you know what? It's all right. Don't worry about it. I'll just wait.
I'll just wait.
I'll wait for Batman in his bat boat. Or
Do you reckon
something.
that's why Zack Snyder tried making him really cool in his DC universe? He got like Jason Momoa, didn't he? That's what his name is. Like some cool fucking rock looking dudes. Do you reckon that's why he got him to play Aquaman, to try and make him cool again?
To be honest with you, I think Zack Snyder can make a movie about the Great Depression and make that cool.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he probably could.
He's going to make things.
But
cool.
yeah, going back to serious things about lifting again, like other proven benefits. I say proven, nothing is ever truly proven. But another thing I like about weight training in particular is that it makes you confident in movement. And this kind of links back to what we've spoken about in the past in regards to things like posture, etc. Lifting can make you pretty confident moving through various positions, and it can make you realise what you're capable of as well, even if you have got some form of physical abnormality. Some people might assume that if they've got something like scoliosis, that's it, they're doomed. But actually, there's some great weightlifters out there with things like scoliosis, other abnormalities. There's Olympic lifters that have hands missing at the end of the day. I know you might think how they do that. There are kind of like apparatuses they have. But, weight training is for everyone. It really is for everyone. And it can build self-efficacy. And, yeah, it could just show you, like, how resilient the human body is. Yeah.
And I think on a specific level, I think you've kind of hit the core there. But on a larger scale, I've got some more stuff here which I think is really important. This is from the US, though. So inactivity is obviously a huge issue across the world. Obviously, in a Western society, if you look at the UK, look at the US, inactivity is a massive issue in terms of people's health. We've seen it a lot in the COVID environment that we're hopefully coming towards the end of now. But we've seen that people with increased metabolic markers and on the lower end of stuff, they're going to suffer more because of their health. And maybe resistance training is something that could get you excited because, as we'll come on to, some people, they don't like the idea of having to go for an hour run or to sit on a cardio machine like a cross trainer for an hour. It might bore them. Maybe resistance training. If we can remove that fear, remove those barriers to getting involved with it, you might be able to find something you really enjoy. And this is to show the extent of the issue. I found something from the Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans. It was a 2018 paper. These will all be linked to the show notes, by the way. It looks at inactivity in the USA. Only 26% of men, 19% of women, and 20% of adolescents are meeting the current recommendations for exercise. That is incredibly low, isn't it? Bearing in mind, the actual recommendations for exercise aren't exactly like that high. They are. I mean, they're not low, but they're not that high. They're not unachievable. It's not like they're telling you to do hours a day. Oh, sorry. No, and with respect to resistance training, in particular, there also seems to be a 23% reduction in all-cause mortality in individuals who resistance train 2 to 3 times per week. Now, that 2-3 times per week fits in with that recommended allowance at the USA. I was just telling you about that paper there.
Yeah.
And that was from a paper from Dankel 2016. But that reduction from 2 to 3 times per week is massive. Like, people might think, is it? But
and just to clarify, that's all cause mortality.
That's not one thing, exactly. That's all cause.
Do you know what as well? I mean, there is evidence out there, and this is quite specific to weight training. Obviously, it depends what kind of weight training you're doing, but there is evidence out there to suggest that you tend to have a better quality of life and improve mortality with grip strength. Grip strength is an indicator of that. And what better to improve your grip strength than through weight training?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've actually said that at work before. For new listeners, I work in a commercial gym. I've said that at work before, and people are absolutely baffled by it. Like, how does grip strength correlate to all that? Well, think about it. As you get older, when you're more vulnerable to, say, falls, you need to grab onto things. Even, your quality of life as well, like picking up a kettle or a pot or a pan full of food or water, And you got to think, as you do get older, what might not be a big deal for us in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, picking up a pan of water and having the grip just to hold that and, cook to live is a big deal. Yeah. A very big deal.
But people think...
being able to open doors.
Exactly. When people see this episode, they think, resistance and weight training. They might automatically assume we're talking about big lifts and people slinging tin in the gyms, like heavy metal in the background, massive deadlifts. But we're talking about everybody. This is not a special boys club when it comes to weight training or resistance training, whatever you want to call it. No. This is sort of everyone. As you just said, that grip strength thing, that's huge for and even if you just do basic resistance training, the odds are you're going to improve grip strength. If you're doing things like deadlifts on a regular basis, that is working your grip strength.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm always going to be biased towards barbells because that's just what I like. But at the end of the day, you don't have to just use barbells. When we talk about resistance training, in particular with this podcast, we're talking about anything that involves you pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, basically all these big movement patterns. And it can be on a free weight, it could be on a barbell, a dumbbell, a body pump bar, a kettlebell. It could be a sandbag. It could be a rucksack full of tins of beans. Yeah, it can be machines. Do you know what? To an extent, it could be resistance bands.
Yeah. Why not? Resistance band. Nothing wrong with a good resistance band.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, there's loads of different, methods you can use at the end of the day, modalities.
And kind of what so it's all good and well saying us about this, saying 2 to 3 times a week's not a lot, but as we've harped on about loads and loads of times in the past, we do understand there are barriers. So there's a paper here which is actually really interesting. So they basically said factors associated with participation in resistance training, a systematic review. Okay, they concluded low education levels, a poor health status were associated with low participation rates in resistance training. Intrapersonal factors including effective judgments, self-efficacy and self-regulation behaviours, and interpersonal factors including subjective norms and program leadership may be important for promoting resistance training behaviours. And that was quite a big paper, and you can tell that low education levels and poor health status. If you don't know better and you're in a bad health status already, automatically the last thing you want to do is to go into a gym and just start pretending to lift weight. Because if you don't know what you're doing with a barbell, for example, and you look like you're a bit of a, if you're on the larger side of life, how is that going to make you feel if you go into a gym and you want to start squatting and people are looking at you because you're overweight, you don't really know what you're doing, so you might be doing something wrong? That's going to be playing in your head over and over again. So what's you going to do? You're probably not going to do it to begin with. You're not going to put yourself through that mental stress of people potentially laughing at you, which is not a good thing at all.
And to be honest with you guys, for the people that are in a gym training seriously, and properly training, that are decent human beings, they won't be looking at you, or they won't care how big you are or what you're doing. And for the people that are laughing, and let's be honest, there will be people, I'm not going to pretend that, no one's like that, because there are scumbags, we are human at the end of the day. Those are the people that, they're the people that most of us look down on, the non-normies, the scumbags that create these barriers, that do shame people. And I guarantee you, the same people that are shaming, if I took 15 minutes watching them train, I could pick them apart at the bones with what they're doing wrong. But I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's no need for me to do it. And I don't need to, although it is nice to bully a bully sometimes, isn't it? But I mean, what you kind of mentioned there is something we've mentioned in previous podcasts, which is people's socio-economic status, their education levels, their healthcare, etc. I mean, what it does point to is people that have a lower socio-economic status do tend to find it hard to find time to exercise in general, particularly with the gym. If you're a single parent, you've got 2 children, at the same time you're working a job when they're at school and you find it hard to have free time, or you've had a really stressful day. oh, you've got to worry. People say, oh, you need to prioritise your health. Yeah, you do need to prioritise your health, but it's easier said than done when you're just worrying about when the next paycheck is going to be, so that you and your kids have a roof over your head. But people going, oh, there's no excuse, rise and grind, you've got to get to the gym 3 days a week. You know, what are they supposed to do with their kids? You know, what about the lack of emotional support? There's various reasons why there are barriers. But what is important is to understand that we have something called a locus of control, which is, some things are out of our control, some things are in our control, and some of them, even though are out of our control, we can possibly find ways around those barriers. So things like home workouts, etc. Now, that's easier said than done, because once again, there are still barriers. If you don't have the space for it, or the only time you do have to yourself, you might have children running around your feet. Happens with me. Every time I try and do a push-up, I've got my little one climbing on my back. But that's all right, it's just extra resistance, so happy days. But, there are always barriers, but it doesn't mean that it's completely out of your control. It's just going to take a bit of testing and adjusting to find out what we could do to get people active, especially in regards to resistance training.
I think that's where having a good coach and some good guidance could be quite beneficial. So something I was going to talk about as well is that, for example, in the industry that we're both in, like the physical training industry, you could tackle certain issues such as self-efficacy, self-regulation, program leadership, with not only giving people programs to follow, giving people guidance and stuff, but also education so that they can have that self-efficacy going forward. Because these people, as you said, if they're struggling financially, the last thing they're going to be able to afford is a constant rolling one-to-one coach. So sometimes you're going to want to perhaps jump onto something like a 12-week block where you can get really loads of education at the same time as good training, and that way after that block you don't need anymore because you've got the education required to go forward and carry on yourself.
Do you know what? I just want to quickly say, because we keep on bringing up this term self-efficacy, and we've mentioned it in a couple of previous podcasts as well. But just to clarify for new listeners, when we talk about self-efficacy, basically we're talking about a person's confidence in their ability to do something. And there is evidence there to show that the more self-efficacy someone has, the more likely they are to continue doing that thing. So if we build up self-efficacy amongst people, being able to exercise, just have faith that what they're doing is okay, even if it looks a bit dodgy, like their form's a bit off, their technique's a bit off, or they're a bit embarrassed. As long as you keep doing it and build self-efficacy, you're more likely to do it long term and then maintain it. So that's what I mean by self-efficacy. Just wanted to jump in there.
I know you've been working as well on a really good beginner's block in regards to resistance training, which is really good. How's that going? Is that finished yet, is it?
Oh, fuck me, mate. That's I started writing that in December.
Yeah.
So I started writing that around Christmas. Is it July now or June? Is it still June?
Nearly
it's June.
July.
Oh, thank God. Well, still, I was supposed to have that wrapped up in about a month, and it's taken its time, mate. But it's coming
it'll be
along.
really good. Once that's done, we'll definitely have that linked. But also we've also got the Train Primal one-to-one coaching packages, which I think there'll be because we do start on a 12-week package there. It was available. There'll be links down the show notes for this, but it's definitely worth doing simply because the coaches we've got, they're not only going to it's not a monkey see, monkey do situation. They're all about education, which I think is the money itself you're paying. It's obviously not going to be cheap, but that it's the education you get for that self-efficacy going forward is it's priceless. Obviously, from my bias point of view, because any coach, they could charge you a reasonable price, and they could tell you, right, do this training block for this period of time, which is good. I mean, you'll get results from that block, but then if you're not getting the education, if you're just sitting there following this and you're not really learning about the process and learning about how to how time management, basically life coaching. Life coaching is something that we really harp on about Train Primal with that one-to-one stuff, because things like time management are going to be crucial. Because yes, we said people say, they're a single mum, they've got kids, they haven't got time. But there is always time. But the issue is finding out how to manage your time, and that could be very difficult to do on your own. Whereas if you've got someone who is very, very good at coaching, they can help you with this time management. Be like, okay, let's have a look at your day. Let's see where we can play with things. Let's see how we can do this, and we can do baby steps. Okay, you've got 20 minutes here that I've just seen there. What do you normally do during then? Oh, I don't really do anything. Okay, then let's have a little go. I'll get on Zoom with you, or I'll get on a call with you, and we'll talk through it, and we'll get you going. And then once you get into that routine of it, that 20 minutes where you're normally procrastinating on your phone then becomes your training session. And then as we go on, that increases. Next thing you know, you're on 3 times a week, 1 hour at each session, good resistance training program, and then you're getting the benefits for life.